Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hockeytown Rundown. You're here with us, your beautiful host, once again, Carlo and Zach, with a beautiful guest, none other than Let's Go Red Wings Prospects, the one, the only from Twitter. Let's give a round of applause.
Big claps for hopping on the pod.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for popping
Zach,
on.
real quick, we'll give you a moment to give a few words, talk about yourself, your account, and what you do, what you don't do, and all the above. Lay down the groundwork, buddy.
All right. Well, I used to follow this prospects Twitter page, and I was watching a lot of junior hockey anyways. And then the guy who was running it just stopped running it. And I was and that was last year. And I was well, I'm already watching these games. I'm just going to start an account and, clip it, track stats, whatever. And then he reached out and he was like, dude, I don't have time for this anymore. Glad you stepped up and did it. And that's pretty much how it went.
That's sick. That's sick.
Handoff. I love that. Good for you, dude. And thank you for doing what you do, because it's real good work, man. We appreciate it. Seriously.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, I got plenty of people, friends, family, everyone asking about prospects. I mean, we give you a lot of props for doing that and doing the deed that not everyone wants to do. So we definitely give you a round of applause for doing that, that great service for all of us Detroit Red Wings fans in general, right? And so before we jump into talking about some of the prospects, let's go ahead and talk about what happened last week, talking about some of the games, the end of the season mood, the locker room clean out, the press conferences with the players. Still no Steve Yzerman presser, but we will be going in depth about everything that has been going on, as well as maybe talking about some other things too. So stick around, find out, and let's enjoy this episode. But Carlo, Zach's brand new here, so we unfortunately have to do this with him in it. And Carlo, what does that mean? Well, we got to stop and tell everyone, thanks for stopping by. Once again, if you are returning, if you are brand new, thanks for stopping by on this brand new episode. If you haven't already, if you are viewing this or listening on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and then follow us on all of our social medias, as well as our good buddy here, so Red Wings Prospects.
Hit this guy up, man. Hit him up, because you will be so well informed. It's ridiculous. So
yeah, you guys can stop asking us now. Just ask him.
No, seriously, just watch, just hit him up, because you will be a very educated Red Wing fan, which is good. This is good.
A lot of overseas prospects, a lot of NCAA prospects, even Grand Rapids prospects, but we will be jumping into all of that. So make sure you give him a follow on all of his social medias as well. We will be attaching that into all of our descriptions for these videos as well, as well as YouTube. Obviously, we're on Apple and Spotify as well. And we have a TikTok now, thanks to Carlo. He's doing magnificent work on that. So if you guys haven't already, go ahead and follow us on there. And with that all being said, boys.
Wait, hang on. There's one more thing to say. All
right, go ahead. Lay it out.
Let's just say happy Easter, everybody, man. It's Sunday. It's Easter. We got food lined up today. We got family lined up today. And we just want to take a minute to say happy Easter to y'all. Thanks for popping by. And we hope you have a happy Easter. So with that said, let's roll, boys. Let's jump into it.
Thanks for reminding me, Carlo. It's another Sunday Scaries for me, boys. So what happened earlier this week? Well, the Wings started off on Monday versus the Stars. It was Kaner's 1300 game. You did have Talbot and Nat, and the Red Wings did actually end up winning this game 6-4. You did have Anton Johansson scoring, Alex DeBrincat getting his 37th, and then as well as Jonathan Berggren getting on the board, Moritz Seider, and then Lucas Raymond and Vladimir Tarasenko, boys. The only thing I really want to touch on this game, we don't have to go too in depth like I said earlier, but the young guys have been coming out to play all week. I just want to highlight this in this game. Lucas Raymond, 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points. Jonathan Berggren, goal and assist for 2 points. Dylan Larkin even getting 2 points. Kane, an assist. Kasper getting an assist. Johansson, like I said, getting that goal. And then Moritz Seider, also a 3-point night as well. So, boys, I don't know if you guys have anything to say about this game, but going up against a top team like the Dallas Stars, it's a pretty good win, honestly. And Carlo, you made mention of it last episode that if the Red Wings could win X amount of games, you were almost quite there, buddy.
Dude,
almost quite there. But do you have anything to mention about this game, either of you two, real quick?
For me, the big takeaway, I guess, is Albert Johansson's goal. I mean, at Farjestad, I'm butchering that pronunciation. He was a really good offensive defenseman, quarterback the power play. If we can see more offense in the future for him, I think that's a huge win for the Wings. So I think that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, that was a really, really nice goal. And I'll give a credit to Berggren. I'll ask you guys a question about Berggren, but Berggren kind of took away two Dallas players from that entire play, and gave Aljo that space he needed to go and get creative and get offensive. So a little shout out to Berggren. But speaking of Berggren, that was a really nice goal. Speaking of Berggren, top line burgers, starts producing. If this guy, and this is just a quick one, off the cuff, quick question. If he comes back, is he on the top line?
For me, I mean, I'm not Berggren's biggest fan. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of a perimeter player. But, I mean, he's a top 6 guy. If he's in the bottom 6, he's not going to produce unless he's paired with some good players. And, I mean, I think at times we saw him with Tarasenko and I forget who the center was at the time, but they showed some offense. But I mean, I'm not so sure on Berggren on the top line. I think if Berggren's on your top line going into next year, I don't think that's the best case scenario.
Bigger problems.
Yeah, I would agree.
Problems. Just a quick off the cuff for Zach. What do you got, man? What'd you take away?
Yeah, and I actually do like this question because I think it was last episode, or maybe we were texting each other, Carlo. It all intertwines now at this point. But I even said to you, Berggren, I could see easily being an addition on that bottom 6 there. Yeah, Jonathan Berggren, I mean, ever since being put up there, he's been putting up the points, right? I mean, even against the game in New Jersey, I guess just moving along into that as well. That's a 2-point night for him as well, right? And so, we talked about it, Carlo. I guess I shouldn't speak on your behalf, but I guess for both of us, I think we're both a little hesitant to even bring him back, potentially more so on the top line. But I do think that he could be a great addition just to add on this team, someone you can bring in on a cheaper deal, right? Because looking at the cap space and the way it is, everyone wants the top 6 forward. Everyone wants the top 4D to be added this offseason, right? And so for me, I think you can add him here, but I wouldn't want to put him on the top line, but if that's where you're going to get the most production, go ahead and do it and see how it works a little bit. But eventually, as the season goes along, we know what a Jonathan Berggren is. That perimeter player who hopefully can do something for you along the boards and hopefully at least pass the puck out to someone who can finish the goal. But Jonathan Berggren, I mean, he put up less points than technically he would have last season if he played with us the whole entire season. So I guess what's your overall understanding with Jonathan Berggren, and what would he need to do in order to stay on the Detroit Red Wings team in the future?
For me, I think if you're going to bring him back on like a small deal, that's fine. I think he could potentially be a good depth scoring option in your bottom 6. But for me, I think he just needs to start winning more board battles, getting to the middle more, getting to the dirty areas. I think he's a great passer. I think everyone can see that. But if he's not making plays, then what is he really providing for you would be my big question.
Pretty spot on. And like I said, I think at this point we can move on to the New Jersey Devils game where the Red Wings did win 5-2. In this game, you did have Jonathan Berggren getting that first goal, JT Compher following up in the second period, Dylan Larkin getting another goal, Alex DeBrincat as well, getting very close to 40, boys and girls, and then Marco Kasper finishing up with his 19th goal of the season with an empty netter. We're just going to go ahead and jump into a little bit of Marco Kasper talk. And we did put this out on Twitter. Are you a little nervous about Marco Kasper next season being the 2C? Seeing as though in seasons past, we had the Stephen Weisses, we had the Copps, the Comfers, and every time we put them in that 2C situation, it's either they don't do well or they don't meet the expectations that fans have.
Or they get injured.
What's that, Carla?
Or they get injured.
Or they get injured. Does that nervous you at all for Marco Kasper in terms of how the fans are going to react if he does not perform to expectations in his sophomore year?
I mean, obviously you got to worry about the sophomore slump, but I am a huge Marco Kasper fan. Been a big Marco Kasper fan since he was drafted. I think everyone worried about his production. He was playing in a men's league, and he didn't have the possession game in the SHL is completely different to the NHL. And it's just, you're not going to get as many scoring opportunities. I would put it that way simply. And I mean, this guy's got jam. I don't think a lot of players on the Red Wings particularly have a lot of jam. And I think he's got it. And I think he's middle driven. He's going to the net. He's attacking the net with the puck. And we've even seen some playmaking that I didn't even think he had at the beginning of the year. And I think earlier in the year, I just wrote a little quick blurb for Elite Prospects Fantasy or something like that. And I said 50 to 60 point, like once he starts realizing his potential, he'll be like a 50, 60 point guy. I mean, I'm thinking maybe even potentially more than that during his prime. I know that's like a little ambitious, but if you play him with some good wingers, I think it's possible. And he just, I mean, he has dog. Like he's a dog.
Yep.
And he can
Yeah.
skate and cover a ton of ice. And I'm just a big fan of his.
Yeah, and to your point, it's kind of almost like the same thing with Dylan Larkin, where when the wings were super bad, he never had the wingers, right? So I'm kind of right there with you, where I think Marco Kasper can continuously succeed year over year. Maybe you're going to have some down years where you maybe fall off by a few points, but you can surround him with the correct teammates and the wingers, like you mentioned. I think we can set up for him for success in the future as a 2C, not even just the future moving along, but just next season as well, because of the sophomore slump. And we have seen it in players like Dylan Larkin, Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, right? But Carlo, what are your thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. And for me, he's got that dog. He's just got that drive. And for me, call it wishful thinking. I just think he plays the game so right, and he does so many right things that I think it'll be hard for him to have a slump. Or I should say, if he does have a slump, I feel like he's got the ability to snap out of it, just because of the way he plays the game so well. So I expect him to have either a better season than he had this season, or he'll stay at the exact same numbers that he did this season as like a worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. Again, wishful thinking, obviously biases are all over the place here, but I just think he does too many things right. And I feel like a guy like that is special. And I think he can have himself a better year, if not a push year, where he's going to have the same type of turnout. But that's kind of my take on it. What do you guys think?
I mean, also, like, he was just getting tough matchups down the end. Like, they're like, all right, we need to take some off of Larkin's plate here. And he's playing against the best players in the league as a rookie. I mean,
yeah,
I don't want to, like, get people too hyped up, but it's easy to get excited about that. I mean,
totally.
His defensive game's great. He wins a lot of board battles. I mean, he needs to work on his face-offs. He admitted that. But, like, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about for sure.
I would agree, honestly. I mean, even going back and looking at what Todd McClellan said about Marco Kasper not that long ago, that was on April 10th or 11th, I believe it was. He had some very strong, encouraging words about Marco Kasper. I mean, when we posted this on April 11th, since the head coach change, he had 16 goals, 11 assists for 27 points in 45 games, which would put him fourth on the team since the coaching change. Now, for Marco Kasper, in that essence, I really do believe that this kid can be a game changer for this team. And I'm not worried whatsoever about what he can do and what he can provide, because I'm just copying and pasting everything what you guys said at this point. Yeah. I don't think it's needed to be reiterated, but I'm very excited for what he can do and what he can bring to this team now and in the future as well. And so, like I said, I think it just really comes down to who you're putting him on the wing. And we look at the roster, right? And Carlo made mention of it. There's probably a top 3 forward that you can add on this team. And there's probably at least another top 6 forward, right, that you can add on to this team. And if that's not Patrick Kane in your eyes, then Steve Yzerman has a lot to work to figure out, because I don't want the same situation happening to him as it was with Dylan Larkin. And we expected him to carry this team, right? So, yeah, a lot of expectations on Marcos Kasper's plate right now, and I think that is a player that actually thrives in those situations, right? And we listened to him in his press conference, right? The kid speaks very, very well. And I said this to you boys right before we started recording. I could see him having an A in the future. Is that something you guys could see? Could you see Marco being maybe a leader role in the locker room as a player, or maybe even in a coaching atmosphere at some capacity?
Personally, yeah, I think later on, and this is way down the road, because you got to remember he's still a kid. He's young, right? So, yeah, I think the sky's the limit for him. You got a 21-year-old who is highly intelligent, plays the game well already, and clearly is just a sponge. He absorbs what he's being coached. He's absorbing things from guys around him. He's got the luxury to play with a guy like Patrick Kane. Yeah, man, I think the sky's really the limit for him. He seems like a really good student, and I think that's something McClellan said once upon a time this season. And with a guy like that who's just got the right attitude, a little bit of dog in him, and young, yeah, I can totally see him eventually potentially wearing a letter on his sweater for whatever that's worth whenever that time comes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm not so sure on the leadership stuff. Like, I it's kind of wait and see for me. I don't think he's ever worn a letter. Maybe he did with Austria. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely leading by example. He's definitely going to be a player that, net front scrums, stuff like that, where it's like, hey, we need to get into this game here. I think he can do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I brought this up, and now I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, and we already have talking about the press conferences, but the only reason why I wanted to bring that up is because in Andrew Copp's press conference, he said, you can have the best leader on any team in the world. It could be a Derek Jeter. It could be literally anyone. But if you're a follower on the team, and if you're not following, then this team's not going to work out, and it's not going to go very well, right? Andrew Copp said it a little bit better than I did, and we talked about it before recording as well. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring in Marco Kasper with that. That is someone who is a follower, but someone who I believe can have those leadership qualities with that. And if you're being a follower with your leader and learning from him day in, day out, that's going to rub off on you. So that's kind of why I brought that up. I think that there is capacity for Marco Kasper at some point, but it is still too early, like you guys said. But eventually, maybe that is a possibility, but we will have to see about that. But another thing I did want to call out, actually, is the fact that Marco Kasper, in his first full season with the Detroit Red Wings, actually finished with more goals than both JT Compher and Andrew Copp, not only for this season, but in their tenures as Detroit Red Wings. I believe he tied with JT Compher in goals with 19, though. But still, that's pretty impressive for such a young guy compared to veterans in this league. So is there a chance that we don't see Marco Kasper starting out as the 2C and it's either Andrew Copp or JT Compher?
For me, I mean, I could see a world where he's like the first line winger with Larks and Raymond again, if they strike out in free agency and trades, I guess. But other than that, I mean, for me, he's a lock at 2C. He provides so much as a center. I don't know why you would want to take that away.
Yeah, especially with Dylan Larkin getting another 30th goal this season. That's his fourth consecutive season, and the first to do it since our former Detroit captain, Henrik Zetterberg, in 05 to 09. You even had Lucas Raymond getting 50 assists this year on the Berggren goal in the game against the Dallas Stars, where that's another record broken. That's the first to hit that mark since Zetterberg in 16-17. So it's pretty crazy. So Marco Kasper being on that top line, I'm assuming that Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond are there with him, correct?
Yeah, that would be the case where I could see him not playing 2 center. But I mean, there's too much he can give you as a center that I wouldn't do that personally, but I guess we'll see.
I was just going to say, like, I feel like it could be a disadvantage to not put him on 2C. And I mean, you know how the seasons go. Like, the thing that we learned this year about Marco Kasper is that he's very versatile. Like, he can do it both. So, if you need him to pop up to the first line to play wing with Larkin and Ray, cool. He can handle that. He can do it. He's done it. But I think Zach's correct. Zach to my left, sorry, is correct in saying that, yeah, he gives you way too much that we've also seen, and he's also proven on the 2C position. He just plays the game so well, no matter what you're throwing at him. And I feel like it would be, to answer your question specifically, Zach to my right, I think that it would be a battle between him and Copp, but ultimately I think Kasper gets the 2C. And I think if that does push Copp down to the third, realistically, I think that's where Andrew Copp should be, so that we're finally in a position and going into a season where we are not as over-indexed as we have been for the past, I feel like 3 years. Well, longer, but for sure the last 3 years, it's relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think slotting Copp at 3 center is where he should be. And I think Marco is going to help with the PK next year. I think he's a smart player. I think his skating, I think he'll be a good penalty killer in the future. But, I mean, I just don't see a world where, you must have done a lot wrong if he's not your 2C, in my opinion.
Right? Yeah. And I feel like he's too smart to do anything wrong. So I think it's a lock, boys.
On top of that, I mean, Marco Kasper, the things that he's done for not only himself and this team, but for the other players too, like the Lucas Raymonds and the Dylan Larkins, right? And on top of that, Lucas Raymond's assist on Marco Kasper's goal, that was on Wednesday against the Devils, gave Lucas Raymond his 80th point. And that's the first time we've seen anyone get 80 points on the Red Wings since 2010, 2011, with none other than Henrik Zetterberg, former captain, once again. That's pretty crazy, though. But I do want to bring this up as well. Ken Daniels said during this game that Marco Kasper was a much sought-after player at the deadline. Does that surprise you guys at all? And are you surprised that he wasn't traded at all? Tough questions, I know.
I'm not surprised he's not traded. I think he's like internally, I think they think he's going to be a great player. I wasn't surprised about the trade talk either because I knew Buffalo. I think they wanted him in the Cousins deal, and then I think Boston wanted him as well. So that wasn't too surprising to me.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. But I've said this a few weeks ago. It's like, everyone talks about Stevie Y needing to make a trade. Stevie Y needs to trade somebody. It's like, trade who? And the who are people that you don't want to give up, aka Marco Kasper. He is one of the most desirable players on this team that is at the age where you would go and leverage a trade to make your team better. The problem is that getting rid of him or trading him doesn't make us better. It significantly makes us worse, especially if the haul back is Cousins. Like, no, thank you. Like, we're good here. We'll sit on this guy. We'll wait. And when the opportunity strikes that makes sense, we'll go. But no, to answer your question, no, absolutely. It's not surprising that he didn't get traded. And it's not surprising that he was brought up a lot because, again, to my point that I just made, he's one desirable asset that anybody would want.
Yeah, and while the points may not be there based on the amount of games that he played this season, I will say down the stretch, though, the last 10 games, 8 points. The last 5 games, 5 points. He was a point per game player. That is very important. And if you miss that this season by trading him, who knows what Dylan Cousins could have done for your team if that was the rumor that was going around, that it could have been for Kasper and Cousins and whatever else was involved. We might not even be as close as we were this season with last year, right? And so it's just one of those weird things where it's the what ifs, right? And so I'm very thankful that we never did it. I wasn't really too much of a fan of that rumor kind of going around that we would be interested in trading a Marco Kasper because that goes against everything that Steve Yzerman has always told us. I'm looking to build through the draft, and I'm not trading these guys anytime soon until they tell me otherwise. So, yeah, I think that's a really great response. I'm just really glad that we didn't do it. Like I said, I think that this is a player that we can have. And we saw what he did in Grand Rapids in the playoffs, right? He could be one of those players who just outperforms in the playoffs, kind of like almost like a Tyler Bertuzzi did back in the day, right? So not trying to make that comparison there by any means, but yeah. Moving along to the game against the Leafs, though, I think it was right before or after, so pardon me if I get this wrong, they did assign Austin Watson to the Grand Rapids Griffins. But in this game, the Red Wings did lose 4-3 in overtime after being up 3-1. It was a very challenging loss, I would say, especially against another Original Six team against the Toronto Maple Leafs that actually didn't really need the win. They were already garnered to get into the playoffs. But Carlo, you were so close to getting it right. But at least they got a point out of it. You wanted them to win as many games as they could, all the home games, all that stuff. But yeah, this game, once again, you had Marco Kasper getting another point. Like I said, 5 points in his last 5 games. A couple other goal scorers, especially Alex DeBrincat. I really wanted him to get 40. Does it make you guys upset or anything that he did not get to number 40 for the goals this season?
For me, it's just like, I don't think it's a big deal. I think Kat's been arguably the MVP of the year for me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure he's bummed about it, but I don't think it was that big a deal.
That's what I was going to say. It would have been nice, but I don't know how much stock they put into it as players. I mean, he's going to be bummed about it, like Zach just said, but he'll move on and maybe he'll crack. He's got something to chase now, boys. Like, next season comes in, he's got that. Maybe that sticks in his mind, and maybe that just gives him that clutch gene activation to go get 45 or make that his goal for next season, which would be unreal. So, I mean, I take it as a win. He scored 39, which is a great accomplishment for anybody on this team, on any team. And the fact that it was 39 to me, like, I know me, like the competitive nature that I have within myself. If I finish something at 39, then obviously I want to go and get 40 next season. So, hey, that could be a very good thing, and it could bode well for him and all of us as fans too. So,
yeah, and he was so close. He even said in his press conference, he was like, I think I whiffed on one and I was so close to getting it, but he didn't really seem too upset about it. I think Patrick Kane was more upset for him than he was for himself not getting that, because he loves seeing his teammates get those really cool milestones and everything. But yeah, 4-3 loss after being up 3-1, it's an unfortunate loss, but at least you got a point out of it. But with that being said, the Detroit Red Wings season officially came to an end. with the Detroit Red Wings not making the playoffs once again. They unfortunately did finish worse than last season in the 82 games. They finished off with a record of 39, 35, and 8 for 86 points, so they were 5 points short compared to last season. Zach, real quick, would you say that this is a worse season compared to last season by any means, even though that the points were down compared to last season in the standings?
For me, I think getting Todd in is like the main thing. I think Todd's a great coach. So, I mean, they definitely took a step back this year. I don't think you can argue that they didn't, personally. It's just because the first half of the year was kind of just a waste. So, I mean, I think Todd coming in, getting a full training camp is going to be huge. But, yeah, I mean, they regress this year. That's kind of how it is.
Let's go, the Todd father. Let's go, Todd. Let's go. Right there with you. I think a really nice offseason with this coach, and Tom McClellan is going to do a lot of wonders because, like you said, that first half was just completely lost. It was almost like they just did not play hockey. They got the skate for free. But Carlos, same question over to you.
I look at it as, yeah, technically on paper it's a regression, but then you look at the players on the team and it kind of rounds it out. Like, is it still a regression? Yeah, but it's, I guess, more of a digestible one because, you know, you have the likes of the Kaspers up there, and we just talked about Kasper. We've been talking about Kasper for the last 4 weeks. That alone justifies the regression for me. It just makes it a lot more digestible. Albert Johansson, Simon Edvinsson, Marco Kasper, Soderblom, like, that to me is what makes this something that I can handle and be okay with. We're talking about 5 points here. And then you factor in to just round this out even more, the whole coaching change. I mean, what else is there to say, right? To me, it's yes on paper, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it considering who's on this team, who's kind of made their mark, and who's leading the team now in terms of coaching. And we got Todd McClellan here, the Todd father himself. In Todd we trust. And yeah, I'm under the train of thought. I don't know if this jumps ahead into maybe a next question, Zach, but I'm under the train of thought that had you have had Zach here, and we don't need a third Zach, but had we have had Todd here beginning of the season, I think the outcome's a little bit different right now, and we're talking about things a little bit differently as well. So pushing that forward, I think there's a lot to be excited about going into next season. I really do. And we haven't even gotten into the off season yet. Who knows what Steve Yzerman's got, you know, on his plate or on his board, whatever you want to call it. But the fundamentals, I think I'm really happy with right now, understanding everything that's going on, who's here, who's coaching. Now you layer in the off season and what happens there. And hey, maybe nothing happens there. Fundamentally, I think we're okay. And we got Todd McClellan. I think he's a great coach. So, yeah.
Yeah, and even real quick, just talking about that, I know that I mentioned since Tom McClellan took over, their record was really good. The team would have finished close to 11th in the league, I believe it was. No, let's see, what was it? The team finished 14th in the league with, once again, 56 points in 48 games. And so looking at that, you know, with the 26 games that Snoozy Lalone coached for us in the 26 games, the 30 points, right? So 30 points in 26 games. That's hot dog water right there versus the 56 points that you got in the 48 games played with someone like Tom McClellan. And then even looking at the goals for and goals against difference, it's pretty remarkable. 88 goals for and 111 goals against under Derek Lalone versus 148 goals for and 148 goals against under Tom McClellan. When you hear that real quick, what does that mean to you?
To me, I just think Todd, I mean, I don't want to speak, we don't know what's going on in the locker room, right? But I think Todd being a head coach that's got tons of NHL experience, I think that's a big deal. I think players may respect him more. I think they're going to buy in a little bit more. And like Carlos said, I think the positives from this season are Todd coming in, having a full training camp, and then all the young player progression. Kasper, Edvinsson, Johansson. I think everybody took a little bit of a step forward. So,
oh man, that means that to me, surface value, like Derek Lalone, I feel like he regressed going into this season. Like he had his he became a head coach, and I feel like every season that went on, he regressed. We don't know why. I don't think we ever will. I don't even want to understand it. But when you look at that, that's what happened. And I think I even made comments, and you guys scolded me, I will say. It was preseason, and I know preseason, I get it, But when I watch the team, like, and I'm talking about the team, like, not the kids, the prospects, like when they iced their roster, they looked lost. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And I said this, I got ripped
I know you
apart.
did.
I was like, oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
But to answer your question specifically, Todd McClellan has unleashed these guys' creativeness. He's letting them play to themselves. I think it was Andrew Copp that mentioned that. I'm pretty sure DeBrincat mentioned that yesterday too. He is allowing these guys to play how they want to play, because how they want to play is how they grew up playing, and it allows them to be a little bit more effective and a little more natural to them. I feel like Derek Lalonde had them playing a way that just was so unnatural to each player, and he was kind of painting everybody with the same brush. This is just my opinion. Whereas Todd came in and said, listen, you're Andrew Copp. Play the way Andrew Copp plays. And look at Andrew Copp when he played under Todd. He was getting better. Alex DeBrincat, your last name is DeBrincat. Play like Alex DeBrincat rather than playing like whatever the X's and O's were on the board that Lalonde was using. So to me, it's big. I mean, those are big differences. Those are big numbers. And it's really exciting, man. I think he unleashes these players' true talents and their true creative abilities, while allowing them to keep it simple if they can, because they're playing how they know how to play and how they grew up playing, and maybe playing the way that made them fall in love with the game altogether. So that's kind of my take and what it means to me on these guys. Yeah, I don't know. What's your take now? You've asked us a couple questions here. What's your picks on this, buddy?
Yeah, I'm the question master over here today. 21 questions for you boys. Yeah, for me, I mean, when I see that, first off, I'm just like, this is the difference between someone who has had coaching experience in the NHL versus someone who doesn't right away, right? I mean, and it's so funny that you said that, Carlo, and I never really said it quite like that, how Lalonde regressed. Typically, it's players or anything of that nature that ends up regressing, right? But then you saw the coaching change, and majority of the team, I don't want to say everyone, there's probably a couple that we can pick out from that group, right? That just kind of went up from there, right? Patrick Kane, Marco Kasper, that you could rip off the top real quick, right? But for me, I guess what exactly happened, we don't have to go too in depth about that, but I guess to me, that's the best answer that I can give, is that's the difference between someone who has been a head coach before and someone who hasn't, right? And we saw that with Jeff Blashill, where kind of similar situation where he came in, got us in the playoffs that one year. You could say it was because of the players we still had at that time. And then you started regressing. Obviously, we were in that tear down phase though, right? So it's just one of those weird things, I guess. And I think Steve hesitated a little too long. I do think that he wanted to give Lalonde a little bit of benefit of the doubt. Maybe Steve in his mind did think, maybe I did mess up this team and I didn't get the correct players that we may have needed to, but he made the right move eventually at the end of the day, bringing in a coach quite like Todd McClellan. I know there were a few other coaches that were available at that time that have been scooped up since, but I thought that this was the correct move. Obviously looking at it in hindsight, but I know, Carlo, going back to what you said, yes, I do remember that exact moment where we were kind of giving you flack for that. And I was like, well, it's just preseason. But looking back at it now, it's like, damn, Carlo was exactly right. We should have been worried. And looking at it, now it's kind of a quote unquote lost season, if you really want to call it that. So
one more thing, I think what's important is this isn't the final phase of like what Todd's trying to do. I think he said it multiple times that he's just making tweaks to the system. He hasn't fully done what he wants to do. I think since he came in, they're playing more connected. They're keeping scoring chances more to the outside. But, I mean, they still have a lot of work to do. It wasn't great. I mean, but I think that's the main thing.
Let's go ahead and move on to, I guess, going a little bit more in depth about some of the press conferences that actually took place yesterday on Saturday. We're recording on Easter, as Carlo mentioned earlier. But, you had players like Andrew Copp. You had players like Kane. You had players like Moritz Seider, even Jeff Petrie was speaking. Alex Lyon, almost half the team spoke yesterday talking about it. Let's touch on the Andrew Copp, I guess, going back to it a little bit. He said, if you're not a follower, you're not going to help out this team, right? If you're not going to follow your captain, right? And I know that a lot of people put a lot of flack on Dylan Larkin not being a high scoring player. He only got 70 points, I think, this season. So a complete regress compared to last season. He did say in his media presser too that he was dealing with some injury. Carlo, we kind of said that it was not new news.
Worst
really
kept secret I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.
So, but if you're not a follower with this team, then you're not going to be able to hang with this team. And so with that being said, what do you guys think is the next step for for Tom McClellan and Steve Yzerman going into this offseason? Is it adding that top 6 forward? Is it adding that top 4 defenseman? Is it bringing back a Patrick Kane, which it does sound like Archie's just got to put pen to paper, so we're waiting on that. But what are your overall thoughts on that real quick?
Zach, give it to you, man.
All right, I think there's 2 lanes. I think you either have to add in free agency or trade to get at least one top 6 forward, at least one top 4D, or you got to play the kids. I think you got to pick a choice, go with that. Maybe you fall back on plan B if plan A doesn't work. But, I mean, I'm not sure adding the Tarasenkos of the world on with term is the answer to me.
Yeah, Carla.
Yeah, I'll extend off of that. I definitely don't think we need more murky middle 6 guys, bottom 6 guys with term. That's not what we need at this point because we have quite a few plug players on this team already that have those spots. Yeah. And I think Marco Kasper's proving that maybe the kids are all right and the kids might be up sooner than we anticipated. Like, I feel like that Comfer contract, unless it gets traded, is going to hurt us because he's going to be plugging up a hole. Because I do think there's going to be some other kids that are banging down the door, just like Kasper was. But I do agree there's 2 lanes for sure. Well said. There's a plan A, there's a plan B. I just think this team right now needs the plan A to be, we need to go and get somebody who is going to make a very big impact. And maybe their last name has some brand power to it as well. It's time. Like, it's time for that to be the case. For me, like, I think I would probably slightly put defense over offense, but that's only if Marner's not available. Like, I'm fully on board with Marner coming on this team. He's a complete hockey player. He's a two-way player. He fits the MO, I think, really, really well for the makeup of this team and how Stevie wants these guys to play. Hell of a skater. The only downside is, and I don't even know if you guys want to call this a downside, Marner's a big playmaker, huge playmaker. He can score, don't get me wrong, and he can score some nice ones, but I think number 1 for Marner is he's a playmaker. I think if we need something, we need another guy like Alex DeBrincat. We need another shooter. That's just my hot take. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go. I see what you're getting at there, Carlo. The only thing for me is that, like I said earlier, Dylan Larkin getting his 30 or his 4th consecutive 30 goal season. And you mentioned Alex DeBrincat goal scoring. We know Lucas Raymond can even rip it. He was down this year in terms of goals too. And so with that said, I think you can actually just tell someone like Dylan Larkin, hey, now's your opportunity to actually start scoring more goals, because that's essentially kind of what we drafted him for originally, was to be someone who can score a lot of goals and then someone who's going to be super fast, right? And so maybe you see something switch in there, right? And Marner can score some goals, but I think if you told Dylan Larkin, hey, play the two-way game, but be more so of a goal scorer, and even someone like to Lucas Raymond, if you could do that, if you're putting both of those still on the top line with someone like Mitch Marner, I think that's probably the route you could go, personally, to me. But I'm not trying to go after, this is just me, right? I'm not going after 2 top 6 forwards this offseason, personally.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think that's possible. And I think you just kind of unlocked something for me, so thank you. But Marner, I think, absolutely will make Larkin pop. And you will see Larkin do things that he hasn't done before, just because of the ability Marner has. But also, it's not just the ability he has, it's the respect he's going to command from whoever's defending him game in, game out, right?
And it goes back to that whole...
You're going to cover Marner.
And it goes back to that Copp thing, too. I guess, do we see Marner being someone who can come into this team and follow? Because he does wear an A with Toronto, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So is that someone who's willing to come in? Are we actually going to give him an A? And if not, is he someone who's going to be willing to follow, right? Because that's the type of players that we're now looking for based on what Copp said. So, Zach, on top of what I just said there, but to the original point as well.
I mean, I think you definitely need at least one top 6 winger. I mean, I personally am a big fan of Marner. I think he's an impact player. I think he can improve the penalty kill, which is atrocious. I think he can score goals, make plays. I think he does a little bit of everything. I think he has like a bad reputation of being completely perimeter. I don't think that's true at all. I think he can get to the house area of the ice, score goals, make one-touch passes. I mean, I like his game a lot. And like the argument that he's not a playoff performer, I think is just Toronto smoke. Like I think he puts up points And like the Red Wings aren't in the playoffs anyway. So what are you going to like? Don't you want to get into the playoffs first and then figure it out? But I think the big thing with Marner is, I mean, there's going to be 28 teams going after Marner, including the Leafs. So like there'll probably be a couple of teams that can't do it cap wise, but everyone's going to try to make a play for him. So you got to have backup plans. And then, I mean, if you're not getting one of the like the Besser, Ehlers, Marner types, that's when I start fading back to like, all right, well, let's give some kids some opportunities because I'm not giving 5 years to whoever.
Yeah. What would you say, real quick, Carlo, before you go on? I have one quick question for you guys. What do you think, I guess more so for Zach, what do you think the difference is in the tier level of those players that you just mentioned, from a Marner to like the Besser, the Ehlers? Is there really that much of a significant drop-off that you would see if you did miss out on a Marner?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Marner is a 200-foot player that plays good defense, that scores goals, puts up 100 points. Ehlers, I mean, speed demon, can score. I'm not sure he's doing the same thing on the penalty kill or in the D zone that Marner is.
Yeah, Carlo, that's. If you want to answer that too? Yeah,
I was just Marner's a Swiss Army pocket knife, dude. He's just so versatile, and that's what I think I said this a couple weeks ago, man. We need more versatile players. You know, we have a lot of role players right now, and in fact, this probably leads into why Dylan Larkin's goals maybe are down. He's so focused on playing defense because the other guys who are supposed to be playing defense are just not good enough. There, I said it. And Larkin's,
Shocker.
You know, Larkin's got to go and do that primarily rather than doing what we all want him to do with the sexy stuff and going and scoring goals and stuff. He's over-indexing himself to go and cover for whoever. You know what I mean? So Marner, for me, is there. I think there's a big drop off when you start looking at some of the other guys. I think the other guys can add, some good things to the team and add some goals. But I think Marner is he's checking way more boxes than those other guys in terms of what he can bring to the offense, the defense, the PK, the power play. He can bring it all, and that's just one guy. So for anyone who's like, you're out of your mind for offering Marner $13.5 million, you're out of your mind for not offering 13.5.
Yeah.
I'd give him 16 mil if I could, but I know that I get in a lot of trouble for doing that.
The guy's a 4-in-1 box checker, man. Like, dude.
Yeah. I mean, they need to bring a better PowerPoint presentation than they did for Stamkos. But
yeah,
like I just think he provides so much, and they probably won't get him. That's what's going to happen, but they should definitely at least try.
Try hard. Now's the time.
Let's do a little more deep dive into some of these media pressers, because there were a couple players that were saying some contradictory things to each other. I don't know if I used the right words there, boys, but you guys are picking up with what I'm putting down, right? So yeah, I think it came down to what Patrick Kane said and then what Dylan Larkin said, where Dylan Larkin essentially said it would have been nice if we gotten some help via the trade deadline, and Patrick Kane said it was nice with Tom McClellan and all this other stuff. But yeah, if you guys want, what were your takeaways on some of these things that some of these players mentioned in their press conferences?
Yeah, I think that was like the big newsworthy takeaway was the Kane versus Larkin on what they thought after the trade deadline. And it was interesting that Larkin went first, said the locker room was down after there weren't any trades. And then Kane was the next one, and he said it was all good, which was kind of weird. But, I mean, Larkin's had like such a not a terrible career. Like, they've done a lot of losing with him, so you can understand his frustration of like, we need to go here. Like,
yeah,
I'm wasting my career. He had a comment where he was like, the 4th round pick this year, I might never meet him, and it's like he's kind of telling the truth here. I forget how old he is, but it's like, I mean, that's like 5 years away. Probably won't meet him. Like, so I get his like frustration with the organization of like, we need to go here. But it kind of goes against what Yzerman wants to do, which is build through the draft, which is pretty clear.
Yeah, and I guess to anyone who says like, oh, Dylan Larkin's at this age, he'll never win a cup. Ovi just won it, at the age of whatever age he was, like in his mid-30s. Steve Yzerman really didn't win his until later on in his career too. But even to your point too, where Patrick Kane was in his career versus where Dylan Larkin is now, like it's two completely different spectrums, right? Where Patrick Kane truly never played on such a really bad team, quite like how you made it. Dylan Larkin hasn't had a shitty career by any means, but it's just been unfortunate that the time that he came in is just a rough patch for Detroit Red Wings organization as a whole.
Yeah, I didn't mean it by like he's had a bad. It's just like they've done a lot of losing, and it's like so I get that, and I think the Four Nations was probably like, dude, I need to be playing some of this intense hockey. Like this is awesome. So I'm sure that didn't help.
Yeah. What about you, Carlo? Your takeaways from those two contradictory meeting press conferences there?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. But I think you got to look at who's saying what. You're looking at a guy in Patrick Kane who's won his cups. He's done it, and he's kind of at that tail end of his career. So maybe he's perceiving, what's going on around him and the results a little bit differently and a little bit more mature. Whereas Larkin, I feel like he might have that flame still. He's trying to keep it and maybe grow it. And that takes a lot of work internally. Like that's a mental grind. So I get it. But you're the captain of this team. Like I would think that when Steve Yzerman goes to your house or wherever to sign you to, your big deal, that you guys are having conversations about, okay, what is the game plan? What's it going to take? It's a captain of the team. So for him to say what he said, I thought it was a little egregious. I feel like something like that might have been better left unsaid, because leave it to us to say it for you, Dylan, because we will. But I don't know, man. Definitely an interesting two perspectives, but I think there's a lot that goes into why each player said what they said. I feel for Dylan Larkin, and I'm hoping he can channel this, man. I really hope he can channel this to get himself a good season. But I mean, again, he needs some help. That's not incorrect in saying that. He's not wrong in saying that. I don't think anybody would disagree that Larkin needs some help, because you talk about, I'll draw the comparison to Moritz Seider. It's like, oh, Seider's offense is kind of not there. It's like, well, he's got the hardest matchups every single shift. Can we say the same for Dylan Larkin? I know it's a different end of the spectrum because he's not a defenseman, but when you look at what he's doing when he's away from the puck, I mean, he needs some help, guys. Like, it's just not a shock to anybody. It really shouldn't be anyway. So,
and that's where the Marner talks come in, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
And I think like Kane is like the biggest hockey nerd. I mean, he's watching hockey all the time. He talks about hockey all the time. I think he knows where the roster was at, and he's like, I get why we didn't add. Like, so I think and I think both things can be true. I think like Larkin being frustrated makes a lot of sense, and Steve not willing to part with Kasper or high-end picks also makes sense. So kind of is what it is.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And it's, it's one of those things. I think you're both exactly right. And to Carlo's point, it's where Dylan Larkin, he's just at a different phase of his career where he's still, I don't want to call it still the fire burning, because I think Kane still has that too, right? So not to discredit Kane and what he wants to bring to this team, because he's not here just to collect a paycheck, right? The dude put up a lot of points towards the end when Tom McClellan came in, right? So he's still got a lot of hockey left to play in him, right? But yeah, exactly to your point, I think Dylan Larkin just kind of has to understand that the team isn't in a position where we can sacrifice a second round pick to go on and get a player that's kind of like a Gustav Nyquist, right? Or even go out and get the players like the Dylan Cozens quite yet. And that's something Larkin just simply has to understand. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. So we don't want to put that out there that he doesn't. But great points all around, for sure. I think that's something that maybe Dylan Larkin, that comes with maturity, right? And that's something that Kane obviously has, is just a lot of more years of wisdom on his hands, especially in the NHL, in the Stanley Cup runs and all that comes with it too, right? So yeah, and not only that, I mean, we saw it from Copp too, and just even to touch on Dylan Larkin, even outside of hockey, we're all human beings. These are players that have human emotions. They have families going on. Even Copp said, my family wasn't too happy that I was actually trying to push myself to come back if we made it into the playoffs, right? And so we don't know what Dylan Larkin's going through. Obviously, we know some things have happened in the past, so we truly don't know. So always remember, these players are human beings just like you and I, and this is the team we all love. And so we should pay respects to these players because they do it for us at the end of the day. So yeah, let's jump into the prospects. We're going to start with the two most talked about right now, and I'm assuming you probably know where I'm going with this. Axel Sandin Palika, Axel Sandin Palika, and Michael Branzig Nygaard. Some of them like to call them the acronym twins or the initialism people, whatever you want to phrase them. But overall thoughts on their two games with Grand Rapids so far, and then you can even talk about some of their SHL action that maybe some people aren't too familiar with their playing styles.
Yeah, I think right now the sample size is too small to like really take away anything too much from the Griffins games. But
Yeah.
the first game Axel kind of had a rough start defensively. I mean, he was good offensively. He's always going to be good inside the blue line. I mean, his blue line walking skills are incredible. He's got good edge work. He's got the head fakes. He opens his stick. He can beat guys one-on-one all the time from the blue line. So I'm not really worried about that. It's going to be his gap control in transition defense. It's going to be knowing the system and positioning in the D zone. So he struggled with a little bit of that in the first game. I thought he looked better last night defensively. He didn't pick up any points, so he had a bad game, I guess. But I thought he got some shot opportunities. He's going to have to you can tell that he doesn't necessarily know where guys are going to be on the breakout, like in like a control breakout when there's no pressure. So he had a couple turnovers, but I think, his SHL season was like incredible. Like he set the record for goals. He was unbelievable. So, I think it's good to be excited about him. I would just temper expectations a little bit. Like I've seen some Hughes and McCarr and Hudson comparisons. I'm not sure I would go that far. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he's offensively like dynamic, but he doesn't have the skating, the acceleration that those guys have. So he can't he's not going to make up for mistakes defensively like by just skating super fast and getting back into position like those guys do. But I think he's got like some of the traits I really like about him. He gets shots through traffic well. He gets wrist shots off fast. He has a good one-timer. So, there's a lot to like about him, in my opinion.
And then what about Michael Berggren, knee guard? Because I feel like, that's the most recent draft pick for the Detroit Red Wings, right? So not too many fans are very familiar with him. They just know that he can rip the puck, right? That's at least what Steve said after he drafted him, right? So give us a little breakdown on what you noticed from him in his SHL season. And he was offered to start in Grand Rapids and denied it. So also speak on, are you kind of upset about that? Is that really a worry that Red Wings fans should have?
I'm not upset with it personally. I think as a prospect, you got to do what you think is best for your development. And he's a kid who is Norwegian, and he coming over to North America is a big deal. Yeah. And so I'm not upset about that. I think he had a not disappointing, but a quiet regular season, I would say. But he's a young kid in the SHL. It's a men's league. So I think his style translates a lot better to North America. It's less regrouping. It's less passing around the perimeter. It's north-south. I think he's going to enjoy that more personally. And I think he finishes checks all the time. Like he's not doing a lot of drive-bys where he's just passing up the opportunity to forecheck. So I think fans are going to like that. And I think once he got put in the right position on the power play in SHL, you could really see him start to take off with his shooting. I think Skellefteå, which I'm probably butchering that too, they had a rough year for the first half. Their coach said some things about the city. He got kicked out. And then
really
they had an interim coach, and it took a little bit for them to find their way. So I think there's a lot to like about him, but he's a young kid. I think so people will judge Axel and him at the same time when their draft years are 2 years
just 1 year.
1 year apart. Yeah. So I think you got to give him time. Let him get adjusted. I think the Griffins getting the bye is so huge for both of them to just get used to the guys in the locker room and get used to the systems and practice a lot. So those are probably, I think his biggest attributes are his board play. He's very good at keeping possession on the boards, getting the puck off the boards and getting it to somebody else. I think he can pop off the cycle in the house area, get shots off. So I think there's a lot to like about his game. He definitely has areas of improvement. I think his hands need a lot of work. I think his skating can get a little bit better, his foot speed in particular. But he's just a young kid, so you got to give him time.
Exactly. Right on with that. Yep.
That's a really good analysis of those two. And I love, just going back to where you started, I love the fact that we see someone walking the line with confidence and skill like ASP.
Yeah.
I did see some clips and it looked awesome. And that I love that stuff, man. Being able to walk the line, just having that mobility, that really opens things up for any four of the other guys to go and make something happen. So it's really nice to see that.
When was the last time we had a defenseman that could do something like that, though, boys? Can you think of one?
Like it's been a while, dude.
Yeah.
The closest probably Lidstrom, right? So not trying to make that comparison there, but
yeah. I'm not, I mean, I would just temper expectations a little bit. I think it's gotten a little bit out of control, but yeah, I mean, he can give you a highlight reel where he just sends the winger the complete opposite way. And then he's going into the slot and getting a shot off.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I mean, I get it. Some of the comparisons are nuts, but I'm with you there. But no, we got, and you nailed it in saying the sample size is really just too small. I'm really excited to watch GR in the playoffs, though. I think that's where I think we all are.
Yeah.
To really see what these guys can do, play that level of hockey is going to be fun to watch. And then back to what you said too, that bye week, like when you're injecting any team, I don't care what team you are, if you're injecting a team with new faces from another part of the planet, it's gonna throw the chemistry off a little bit. Like I don't care who you are, like you're doing things a little bit differently than you were doing them yesterday when you got 2, 3, however many new guys here. I think that bye week is huge for that reason. I'm sure you were probably alluding to that, Zach, but getting those guys to gel is going to be big. And who knows, man, sky's the limit once they do get the gelling done and they can go out there and play their game. So it's a lot to look forward to with GR.
Yeah, and Coach Watson was already making adjustments. Like MBN in the first game was on the left flank for like one-timers. And then in the second game, they had him on the right flank to come downhill with his wrist shot. And I mean, this kid's wrist shot, like, there's not like a ton of deception, but it's the type that just blows by goalies. Like it is,
Ripper, man.
It's awesome.
He can rip the puck, as quoted by Stevie Y. Let's get into some other prospects because the first game that ASP and MBN made it over, we had Anton Johansson on the top line. I want to get your thoughts on Anton Johansson and what you think he can potentially bring. Maybe what you think his ceiling is. I'm not going to quote you on this stuff, but just kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on him and what your honest opinions are of him. Really curious on your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him quite a bit in the SHL. I thought he had a chance at being a guy. This stint in GR has made me a lot more confident that he's going to be a guy. I'm not sure if I think third pair is like safe and it's probably going to be around there. But like he has some untapped skill. I made a bunch of clips of his SHL goals. He has one where he gloves it down at the blue line and just dangles between two guys and gets off this nasty wrist shot.
Damn.
So I think he has some untapped offensive potential, but the key traits for him are like he's got a little bit of bite to him. I don't think a lot of guys down there that are prospects have that. I'm not sure Wallander has that. I'm not sure. I mean, Bouillon, I'm not so sure he has that either. He's physical. I think like his second or third game, he threw a huge hit and blew a guy up. So I think they need a little bit of that. And the other thing is his skating is just, I mean, him and Wallander's skating is just so aesthetically pleasing to watch. Like they're both like such good skaters, and it's like the pivoting, the turning back for pucks, both of them will break out a 10-2 move every once in a while. I just think both of them, like Johansson came in and I think they started him on the third pair maybe, and he quickly just rose up the ranks really fast. And then he was quarterbacking a power play even, and it's like, geez, like are the Griffins defensemen this bad, or like is he just like proving this much that he's that good? So I think it'll be interesting to watch. I really hope they can keep him in GR next year. I'm not sure like the SHL is going to do much for him. I think like the positive spin if he goes back is like maybe he can work on his offense a little bit more, but I really hope they can keep him in GR.
Yeah, no, that's all great takeaways. And he's a very big boy. He's 6'4", 196 pounds, and he shoots right. So to your point, being on that third pair, that's definitely the way it's going to go, because you obviously have Sider, ASP. You expect to be that top 4 guy, right? And then you
Yeah.
can have someone like Anton and maybe Aljo. That could be your third pair in the future. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is a player who played for Alexand's IF this season in 46 games, 5 goals, 5 assists. And with the Grand Rapids Griffins, 11 games, 5 assists. This kid, I mean, he's a +1, not really trying to stick on the plus minus, but yeah, this is a kid who's quickly getting, the top pairing minutes very quickly, and probably coaching staff, to your point, Zach, are probably shocked based on what he's provided for them so far. And yeah, being up on that top pair, I think that's why we wanted to ask the question about him, because this is pretty much a Steve Yzerman MO type of pick player. I mean, a 4th round pick at that, 105th overall. So would you say that this is kind of like a sneaky kind of guy that you picked up, needle in the haystack type of player that you drafted?
Yeah, I mean, I think the odds like at that range is like you're not going to get an NHL player. And anything like if he plays NHL games, that's a win. I mean, I know it's hard to like accept that sometimes as fans, but like the odds are not stacked in these guys' favors, and if outside the first round. So like if he can be a guy, that's huge. It's going to be interesting because they have a lot of defensive prospects that could be similar, like third pair guys. I think this summer could be potentially the time to maybe cash in on that, package some of these guys together with a roster player or whatever in picks, try to upgrade. But I think Anton's rise in GR, like it's I'm trying to be conservative about it, but like I thought he had a chance at being a guy in the SHL, and his adaptation to the AHL has been so fast. It's seemingly like I think he's had like one bad game, and yeah, I mean I'm pretty excited about it.
Now let's talk about a forward this time, and this is a Russian forward, and it's so weird, Zach, to be honest with you, because it seems like people know who Buchelnikov is, right? Dmitry Buchelnikov, Buch Bonds, whatever you want to call him, right?
I've made that my goal, yeah.
Yeah, fans just don't know exactly how KHL works, the contracts, all that stuff. The whole, we saw the whole Kirill Kaprizov situation. So kind of help fans a little bit with the whole Dmitry Buchelnikov situation, maybe what the outlook for him would be for the Detroit Red Wings. Do you maybe see him on the top 6? So lay down the pipe work for that.
Okay, so he's got one more year on his KHL deal. I think it's pretty unlikely that he is going to be able to get out of that this summer. I think there's a chance. I mean, I don't expect Vityaz, or however you pronounce it, to make the playoffs again next year. So hopefully they do us a solid, like Scott did with Demidov, and let him out, because like his contract isn't actually up until like May 31st. So hopefully they do us a solid and let him go after the season. But they like train after the season, which is kind of weird to me. And but like, yeah, I love this kid. I think he is arguably one of the most talented prospects they have, if not the most talented prospect naturally. I think there was a lot of questions about his size, and even some people question his skating. I don't think that's an issue. I think his skating is really good. I think his edge work is really good. He's got a strong lower half. He doesn't get bumped out off pucks as much as you'd expect. I think he, like, some people think like there's a perception that he's like a perimeter player. I don't think that's true at all. I think he gets to the middle. I think he wants to get to the middle in transition. I think he'll, like his playmaking this year has come on leaps and bounds. And I think he ended up with like 39 assists, team record. But I mean, he's also like people ask like, oh, like is Vityaz that good? Is he just like giving people tap-ins or whatever? And I'll post this clip of earlier in the year. It was like a 3-on-1. They make a cross-ice pass to him. He passes back to the high guy. And the guy, like the goalie goes with him. And the guy and the high guy misses a wide open net. So it's not like he's playing with these like great players. I think he had 15 goals. 11 of those are even strength. So I think,
wow.
Yeah. So I think he can provide the juice in the top 6 if he makes it. The only question is like, if he's not a top 6 player, he's probably not going to be in the NHL. And that's just what it is, because I don't see him grinding it out in the bottom 6. I think he's got great hands. I think he's got a really deceptive wrist shot. He's got a good one-timer. The problems are going to be the size and strength. So, and confidence at times. It seems like all goal scorers are streaky, but he's pretty streaky. So like when he's feeling it, you're gonna know in the first 3 shifts if he's feeling it. And but I'm really high on him. I think he, like, ceiling wise, he's a top 6 player. The Kaprizov comps need to relax a little bit, but I think he'll be like a really good player if he makes the team.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the comparison that I can make is just based on, when Kaprizov made it to the NHL, right? It was a lengthy time frame for him to even make that jump to North America, right? And so that's the best comparison I can make with Buchelnikov. With him, it's not even how they are as players, it's just the whole situation from KHL to North America, right? But yeah, so with that being said, like, it's either top 6 or nothing, right? That's where he's going to thrive the most. So let's say it's not this season and it is the season that we do expect him to come. Does that deter you from wanting to add a top 6 in this free agency class, or even next season? Would that deter you because of that?
Personally, no. I mean, I think you got to, like, if you have the opportunity, you got to take it. You can always fix stuff later. A couple more things I like just throw out there. His shooting percentage was down 2% from this last year to this year. And it's hard to like the KHL isn't like the SHL. It's not as possession based. It's more like the pro game. I see people throw out the rink thing. Most rinks in the KHL now are hybrid NHL rinks, so it's not that big a deal. I think the other thing that gets thrown out is, like, is he good defensively? He had the most pass interceptions in the KHL this year. He had, like, I think he had 21 takeaways too. I think the things that you got to worry about are engagement defensively in the D zone. Like, sometimes he's going out to his point kind of lackadaisical, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I think there's just so much juice there. And he even showed some more physicality this year. I just, like, it's like, I'm excited, but I don't want to, like, blow him up too much.
I think honestly, the only question I had was just around his size. Like, he's obviously on the smaller side, but I obviously think that plays into his lower center of gravity, which could be an asset. Which, now, how would you say he handles that, Zach? Based off, I haven't watched too much of Booch outside of, honestly, your clips, so thank you.
Yeah.
But the clips I see, he seems to have that dialed in. Like, you talk about him being hard to get off the puck. I mean, that's obviously a testament to the way he can control that center of gravity. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to get too obsessive here, but he's got huge quads. Like, I've seen, like, he's a big lower half. So, like, his stop and starts are, like, his main thing, like, to keep pressure off of him. Like, he's really good at, like, in transition, turning up the boards and finding a late man. But his board play is pretty underrated too. I don't think he's getting, like, he's good at pinning pucks to walls and then pulling them off, like having the guy on his left shoulder, pulling it to his right shoulder. So I think, like, the physicality is going to, like, he showed a lot this year, like, progression wise. I think he cuts to the net hard. Like, he'll drop a shoulder, go far post. So I'm not too concerned about it, but it's just, you never know, right? Like, if he comes over to North America and they put him in the AHL, it's an aggressive league. Like, he might, like, you can get chopped at, whatever. But the KHL is like that too. It's not soft, I will tell you that. Like, they're throwing slashes around. There's one clip I posted where he gets hacked like 5 times in one zone entry. So he's dealt with it so far. And you just got to hope that he keeps progressing. I think next year, if Vitiaz needs to bring back some guys, he played with an American this year, Derek Barak. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right either, but he was like a small center as well. And they were like telepathic out there. So you got to hope that he has a good year next year and then comes over ready and I'm hoping to just jumps right into the lineup. But in a recent interview, he said he's willing to go grind it out in the AHL. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I guess that was going to be my follow-up question to you, is that what your expectation is. Would you prefer to see him make that jump to the NHL or go straight to Grand Rapids? Because to me, I firmly believe that he could just make that jump, but we know Steve Yzerman's MO is not that. So
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what the roster is going to look like next year, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to say, but I mean, he's one of those guys where it's like if he's playing with smarter players, it's natural. Like more is going to come out of him if he's playing with guys who are thinking at the same level he is.
Yeah. Let's shift focus a little bit and let's talk about some underrated players, I would say. And both of them are actually brothers. So let's talk about the Dollar Nilsson brothers here. You obviously have Noah being the younger one. He was drafted most recently in 2023, third round pick. And then his older brother, Liam, it kind of sounds like that Liam isn't going to sign with the Detroit Red Wings. If you want to touch on him, you can, but I wanted to primarily focus on Noah. Not really too much going on with this guy in terms of people talking about him, but he's playing with Frölunda. He put up 10 points, 4 goals, 6 assists in 35 games played, and he's only 19 years old. He'll be 20 here in actually 5 days. 6 foot, 185 pounds. What can you tell us about Noah?
Noah, to me, I watched quite a few of his games this year. It's all going to be about staying healthy. I think he had like 4 different injuries this year at different points. He's already had a couple of shoulder surgeries, I'm pretty sure. At the beginning of the year, I really thought he was going to break out this year. And the thing is, like, all the SHL teams, they're trying to win. And, like, you have to understand that as a fan because it's like, well, of course they're trying to win. So, like, maybe it's not the best for his development, but it is what it is. And, like, he's an aggressive kid. He'll go to the net. He had like his shots actually like really good, but it's just going to be about getting healthy and staying healthy. I think he missed some of the playoffs recently too because he wasn't healthy, and he had guys who are going to get drafted next year pass him in the lineup because of it. So it'll be interesting to see if he can nail down a roster spot next year, and hopefully he can take off from there. But kind of disappointing, but it's just luck, so it's hard to be too mad about it.
Now, and to your point too, I mean, even for Lunda as a club, while yes, we want every club to win, right? Whether if it's your own, whatever, it doesn't matter. Every club wants to win, right? But for Lunda, we kind of saw that with Lucas Raymond. I felt like he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, even though we knew that he was going to be pretty good, right? Even the same thing with Simon Edvinsson. I felt like that they were underutilizing him a little bit. They don't really put too much into younger guys because they always want to win. And that's kind of what I've noticed, at least. But does that kind of correlate a little bit? Is that kind of what you're getting at? Is that maybe because he's younger that they just don't want to give him that much exposure right away?
I mean, I would push back on that a little bit. I think Raymond got a lot of like good ice time, so same with Edvinsson. But the middle round picks, like, I mean, this year he had Stenberg pass him at the end of the year, who's going to get drafted really high next year. But I could do like 5 minutes on how that the Sweden kind of jerks around their North American prospects. Like his brother was also at Frölunda, had to drop down to J20, get some SHL games, drop down to J20, go out on loan, and then he eventually signed with Bjorklöven. And it's like, I get it because they're just trying to win. So you have to like come at it from that state of mind. But yeah, it's not best for player development for sure.
And then kind of going back to Liam, that's the expectation that he more than likely won't sign with the Detroit Red Wings with an entry-level contract, correct?
Yeah, that's my limited view of it. I mean, he just re-signed for a year. So, I mean, I'm sure like as fans, we kind of look at it as rights expire here and then they're done. But I'm sure they'll keep in contact with him. You know, if he blows up, I'm sure they're going to be he's going to be one of their first calls or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to get an ELC to me.
Carlo, I don't know if you want to follow up with any questions. Unless there's, do you specifically have any prospects that you want to touch on?
Black Ace, please give us a Black Ace, man. Yeah, who's someone that maybe we're not looking at that we should be looking at? Not just us, like Wings fans in general. Again, folks, make sure you follow this guy, LGRW Prospects, because he's got some good stuff consistently. If you have a Black Ace in mind, who is it?
Black Ace. All right. I think everyone knows about Kiskinen. so I won't touch on him. I mean, he could be a good energy bottom six guy who can put the puck in the back of the net, which would be huge.
Yep.
Black Ace, I think Brennan Ali has a chance. I think his skating gives him a chance. Notre Dame sucked this year. So I'm not putting too much stock in that. I think he's got a little bit of grit and sandpaper. I'm not sure, like, he's a 7th round pick, so it's like a super long shot. Just because I'm saying his name doesn't mean he's going to make it.
Sure.
A couple other underrated guys. Dylan James has kind of been written off as a bust by most people. He's a 2nd round pick, so the odds aren't he's not going to make it anyway. But I think he could be a really good penalty. Like, he's already a really good penalty killer at North Dakota, and he's probably top 5 fastest skater in the NCAA. So I think that'll give him a chance. He played with Sasha Boisvert a bit this year, and he had a little bit more playmaking. I mean, the points don't jump off the page. North Dakota didn't have like a great year. I think he had like 3 or 4 shorthanded goals though. Like, he's going to get breakaways on the penalty kill. That's just how it's going to be. But he's going into his senior year, so he can become a free agent. So that'll be one to watch. Larry Keenan, I think all the NCAA defensemen don't really get talked about, which is fine. I mean, I get it. But I think Larry Keenan has a chance. I think UMass is like a defenseman factory. They put out like a bunch of D-men all the time. He got paired with another freshman, Francisco Del Elche. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. But he played with him in Penticton in the BCHL. So they had a lot of familiarity. And Francisco will be on my draft rankings as a re-entry because I love his game. But I think Larry just plays super simple. He's going to break pucks out. He's going to pin forwards on the cycle to get stops. So I think he's not going to like, he's not doing Axel Sandin Pelika stuff, but I think he could be a guy, and he's huge. He's got a good frame. And he's got a good shot too. I think he scored a couple of goals this year. So that would be one to watch too.
Yeah, a lot of those defensemen that you mentioned or even didn't mention, they fit the Yzerman bill where they're just big boys, right? And they do, maybe it's 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 specific things well. So those are definitely Steve Yzerman MO type of picks, or even Chris Draper picks that you want to so to say. So thanks for calling out some of those players, because I mentioned some of those to Carlo too, and I was like, I'm very curious to know some of these players. So thank you for touching on them. And yeah, I would agree with you that there may be some capacity in eventually all these first round picks from the Red Wings are going to be with the Red Wings. And so we're going to need players with Grand Rapids Griffins, right? So hopefully eventually we see some of these players make that jump, right?
Yep.
So just going to have to wait and see from there. But I think from here, unless Carlo, you got anything else?
Cupboard seems to be getting really well replenished. I think both Zachs would agree with me on that. And you know what? I'm going to draw back to, before we let you go, one thing that you said that stood out to me, Zach, was earlier on the episode was that it might be time to start looking at potentially moving some prospects out. And I think the way we just wrapped up kind of justifies the why behind that, because it sounds like we got some talent deep in the pipeline. We obviously have some talent almost knocking at the door. And I feel like it's time where the next phase of the Yzer plan really might be right around the corner. None of us can predict that, of course, but it does sound like there's a lot of good things in the cupboard now. I mean, Steve Yzerman came in here, the cupboard was bone dry and there were cobwebs everywhere. Whereas now there's some cans. We got some canned goods here, and it's an exciting time if you are still a believer in the Yzer plan, which we hope you are. This is where things start to get interesting, because we now have desirable things to play with. And I think Zach really framed it up from start to finish today really well. So thanks for joining on, man. It was a pleasure to get you on and chat with you about all this stuff. Your knowledge is unreal when it comes to these prospects in the pipeline. And we definitely are going to keep in touch to get you on as the season as the off season goes on, and then even as next season rolls around the corner, we'd love to get you back on and talk shop again, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. LGRW prospects, folks. Big claps for the boy. We love it.
Yeah, Zach, I'm just going to copy and paste essentially what Carlos said just to kind of get you out of here. I know we've been on here for quite some time. and it's Easter Sunday. Everyone's got some good food that we want to go and eat, right? So, but no, great stuff from Let's Go Red Wings Prospects on Twitter. You can find them at Let's Go Red Wings Prospects. If you want to plug in anything else that you may have missed at the beginning for the folks here at the end, go ahead and lay down the pipe work. Once again, buddy.
No, that's it. Just if you're interested in prospects, follow me on Twitter. That's about it. Just doing it for the love of the game right now.
Love it, buddy. Love it. Yeah, and so with that being said, thanks for joining us once again on this brand new episode of Hockeytown Rundown. Joining us with our good buddy, Let's Go Red Wings Prospects here, showing his face. I believe this is probably the first time you've ever showed your face.
Yeah. So if you're into that kind of stuff, YouTube kids, face reveal.
I will say, I had to ask Carlo, I was like, I don't even know if Let's Go Red Wings Prospect is a guy. It could be a girl. I don't know his name. I got to ask him real quick. So glad to finally put a face to the name. Yeah, once again, go ahead and hit us up on all of our socials on Let's Go Red Wings Prospects on Twitter.
Definitely.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, also on TikTok. We are on TikTok, so give us a follow on there. And with that being said, we'll see y'all on the next one. See ya.
Later.